The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to TechGig webinar series, our endeavor to empower techies. Over the last 11 years, Osmosis has been a platform for Mindtree minds to showcase their technical capabilities, learn, share, and innovate. It has been the stage to showcase the skills and capabilities at Mindtree and to tell the world that they are unstoppable as individuals and as an organization. With Osmosis 2015, they are taking things to the next level by not just engaging Mindtree minds, but by connecting the organization to the entire ecosystem they are part of. The topic of today's session is Role of BPM SOA in Digital Transformation. Our guest speaker today is Arvind Bakshi. He is a principal architect at Mindtree. Arvind is a part of EAI BPM service line and works with customers as a principal architect. He comes with over 16 years of experience in IT architecture, SOA, ESB, BPM, solution implementation, program rollout, governance, and competency development. He has extensive experience in providing IT roadmap for the customers, architecting, and consulting and transformational engagements. This webinar is expected to last for about an hour with 40 to 45 minutes of presentation and the remainder time for Q&A round. So if you have any questions, please submit them using questions tab on your control panel. So without further delay, I introduce you all to our guest speaker. Over to you, Arvind.
Thanks, Deepika. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the webinar on role of AI BPM in digital transformation. Just give me a minute for.
Yeah. She gives the control. Yeah.
Deepika, can you transfer the control?
Yeah, Arvind, we are just facing some technical glitch here. Please allow me some time, please. Arvind, can I ask you to re-log in? I think you've logged out.
Deepika, do you mean re-login using
The web
landline
link,
or?
please. Web link, please.
Okay, web link.
Sorry about the technical glitch. Let's start with the webinar now. So today we are talking about how SOA and BPM can help in digital transformation. These are very wide-ranging topics. So let's set an agenda. So what we are going to discuss today. We will start with what is digital transformation and its impact on IT ecosystem. Then we will look at some of the challenges in realizing the benefits of digital transformation. Then we will have a quick view of SOA BPM, and then we will look at many use cases of SOA BPM in digital transformation. And one of the aspects of SOA and BPM is the governance of it. So how we can leverage the governance piece in digital transformation. So this is the broad agenda for today. So let's get into the digital transformation. We are all on a journey of digital experience, and if you want to look at our journey, it can be divided into 3 stages. The first being the literacy. We have crossed it long time back, and then we got into digital competency. Now we are into digital transformation. So why do we need to say digital transformation? To put a simple definition, it's because it's touching every aspect of human society and human life. I will take you through some of the examples. So far, leaders and businesses have been influencing the common people, but today it's getting changed. There are movements started on social media. The complete elections are fought on social media, and recently we were talking to one IT head of a retail electronics chain. He talked about problems of his employees than customers. Customers do know a lot about the products, lot about the brands, the features, but the employees are not as up to date as the customers. So it's customers who are influencing the businesses. So it's a question of two-way influence. It's not just businesses publishing advertisement, it's also about how customers are communicating with each other and impacting the business itself. And there are many other examples like the mobile or handheld devices, which are a lot more powerful than what they used to be. Or anybody can get a large computing power on cloud at a very minimal cost. And similarly, we can look at many more examples on the high-tech side, whether it's a gene sequencing of humans or viruses. Or we can talk about digital currency. Earlier we had this paper currency, then government started building the digital currency without printing onto the paper. And then there are a lot of businesses, they started creating their own currency in terms of loyalty points or your air miles. Now it has gone to a next step where currency is completely owned by the digital community, if you can look at the Bitcoin kind of example. So these are the examples where we can see that there is digital transformation which is affecting all of us, whole of human society. Then let's look at the transformation cycle, how it is working and why it is impacting the businesses. The first thing we talked about was the smart customer, where they have got access to the mobile and social, and they have got access to all the data. It's being driven by the various digital technologies. The impact of that is for businesses to get new customers, new business was much easier, so that they can give us short offers and get the customers. The problem with that is customer engagement. Since customers have a very low cost to switch the business, it's now on businesses to retain the customers. And how it is being managed is by having a domain expertise, having an integrated product lifecycle management, and having agile principles, integrated enterprise, and of course analytics. But the problem is every business is adopting it and it is going in a cycle, and then there is a need for a very fast reaction, very fast analytics, and then taking those insights into action moving something into production really fast. And some of the technologies that are helping are cloud and smart infrastructures and DevOps. So now we know about the cycle of digital transformation, and let's take a look at how it is impacting IT organizations. In last few years, we have seen that the IT budgets are stagnant, and any new innovation project comes in, it has to wait for the budget, and operation is always a priority. So only when you save in operations, you get more money into innovation projects. And businesses were dependent on IT organization to execute their projects. Now, because of these digital transformation and the new technologies coming in, there is a mobile and social adoption, and there are rapid improvements in analytics and real-time analytics. And also there is aggressive cloud adoption. Earlier people were building, then they got into buying off-the-shelf products, and now they are into a phase of leasing. Take it for 1 month, try it out, if it works, continue. So lease is taking a priority over the other two. And then flexibility versus speed. People are preferring speed so they can go to customers really fast. Because of that, we can see that capital expenditure or expenditure on innovation is no longer a constraint. Business can directly go and try out some of the SaaS products available on cloud. It can be spent by leasing, so it is more like an operational monthly cost rather than having a big bang, big projects. And these are funded by business. And the execution cycles are really short. You can try something out and take it to your customers really fast. And then business is no longer dependent on IT so much, and many organizations are now creating CDO roles, which is the Chief Digital Officer, and in some cases CMO or the Chief Marketing Officer budgets are higher than CTO budgets. So this is the impact on many organizations. Now let's take a look at cloud adoption, how different layers are being formed. Pretty much all the businesses have got their core systems, which includes ERPs or some legacy implementations, their master data, system of records, and all that. And then they started with system of differentiators, how they can differentiate from their competitors by improving their products, their account management, product lifecycle management. And then in the new era, they are getting into the innovation, where it's more about customer-centric, how they can launch their products onto different channels, how they can improve the productivity of their employees, and how they can collaborate with the employees and customers. And it's also about connecting devices, cloud and mobile. Now let's take a look at some of the challenges. As we embracing digital technologies more and more, now we are ended up with a lot many systems to manage as compared to earlier what we used to have. So connecting all of them and making use of all the systems is becoming a bigger and bigger challenge every day. And the data being generated by those systems is also huge, and also devices are being connected across the geographies to their main systems. So that's another problem of integrating. And also it is becoming a business model of diversity. As we grow, as the organizations grow, they need to collaborate with many partners, vendors, suppliers, customers. So as these more and more partners come into the ecosystem, they need to be connected, they need to be part of the business process. So it is becoming a lot more unstructured, a lot more interdependence on each other. And then we have some cultural problems as well, like short-term gain versus long-term cost. Always, it's a human tendency to have a short sight and look for near-term gains. So how do we manage near-term gains at the same time don't lose the long-term vision? That's another challenge we have to focus on. Then there are so many vendors and products in market today. So what product do we choose? And everybody says, take my suite of products and it will solve all your problems. And we all know that it's not true. So how do we tackle such problems? What products are suitable to us? And then the problem of not invented here was always there. Earlier it was about left hand not knowing what right hand is doing, but now that problem has really increased. Now left hand doesn't know that the right hand exists. So can we solve any of these problems with the help of SOA and BPM? Let's take a look at that. So before doing that, I'll just give a brief about SOA and BPM. So we can look at SOA as thinking in terms of services and service oriented development. So these can be any components which have a clearer interface, which provide some service. They are self-contained. They can deliver some required service, and they can be composed of other services, and they can be treated as black box. The implementation of a service need not be known to the consumer of those services. And there are some principles associated with it, like isolation. You should not spread a single piece of logic in multiple components. All related logic should be at one place, that's cohesiveness, and loosely coupled so that you can replace one component without affecting the other. And it should have a right granularity. That's about whether you want to have a chatty messaging or a chunky messaging, which is better suited from a performance point of view. And another is about the design for scale out. As we build IT systems over the years, it becomes very difficult to maintain, and many systems have to be re-engineered and redeveloped. If we have a scale out design, so any new feature can be added as a separate component rather than to change that existing system as a whole. So that's where SOA can really help. Now let's take a quick view of BPM. To start with, business process can be considered in a simple terms as series of steps that business executes to produce a service or a product. And what is BPM? BPM is about managing those business processes. So we model a series of steps, we analyze them, what is the cost of executing it, and then we automate, deploy in production. When customer starts using it, or the employees start using, whoever are the participants, then monitor that and look at what are the improvements that we can bring in. And then go back and change your model and complete the cycle. This is a simple view of BPM, how we can improve on business processes. Now let's take a look at the relationship between SOA and BPM. A process can be exposed as a service. For example, a loan processing system process can be exposed as a service. Anybody can raise a loan request on their mobile or from a B2B with APIs or from a website. So the entry point to the process is through the multiple channels and from a service. Similarly, the second diagram is about a business process has got multiple steps, and each step can call external service. Let's say underwriting process in an insurance issuance in an insurance company. So first you get the credit score of a customer. So whether customer segmentation, whether it's a class customer or a B or a C, based on that decision can be made whether to give a insurance to that person or not. And also there will be rating engines in the companies, and what is the premium to be given to the customer, that can be another service call from the process. And there is one more example. Let's say there is an approval required in the same process. After customer rating is done, segmentation is done, a user can log into a system and say whether we can go ahead with the customer or not. So that's an external service call to a particular step in a process. So now let's take a look at role of SOA and BPM. Let's try to connect these two concepts. We talked about core systems, a system of innovation and differentiation. All these need to be connected. They need to be part of common business processes. So that's where BPM and SOA are going to connect these three kinds of systems. So when I'm talking about the BPM and SOA, I'm considering many technologies like case management, business activity monitoring, decisions, business rules, and the connectivity. So all these things can be considered as part of SOA and BPM. One of the things that we get into a dilemma when we go for SOA implementation is whether to go for a top-down approach or bottom-up approach. When we talk about top-down, it's about the strategy, business strategy and IT strategy which decides business processes and also decides which product to go for and what is the reference architecture and so on. From there, all the development will come up. In case of
Dear
bottom-up,
Arvind,
where do
sorry
we
for the
stand?
interruption.
And
Yeah. Arvind, may I request you to share your screen? We are unable to see that.
how do I?
He's sharing. Hi Deepika, this is Shravan here. He is sharing the screen and his audience view is also clear.
Yeah, Shravan, may I request you to take the presentation, and we will make you the presenter, and then you can show your screen, please, because we've lost Arvind again on the link also.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. Give us a minute.
Thank you.
Audio is
Dear all, sorry for the inconvenience caused. We're just restarting the session. You should be able to see the presentation now. Dear all, you will be able to hear the speaker's voice in just few seconds. Please bear with us.
Deepika, we are.
Yes. You are live now.
Hi all, once again. Sorry about the glitch. We talked about a quick view of SOA and BPM. I'm just showing the slides once again. When I was talking, it was missed out. So we talked about the SOA properties, principles like isolation, cohesiveness, loosely coupled, granularity, and scale-out ready. Also, we talked about BPM, which is a series of steps where we go through the modeling, analyze, automate, monitor, and improve steps. And then we also talked about the relationship between SOA and BPM, how a service can be exposed on multiple channels as services. And also we talked about making service calls from a process and making a service call to a process in a particular step. Now let's start taking a look at the relationship between SOA, BPM, and digital transformation. When we talked about various systems layers like system of innovation, core systems, and system of differentiation, they all fall under common processes, and they all need to be integrated. That's where BPM and SOA will come into the picture. And when we talk about BPM and SOA, there can be multiple related technologies like case management, business activity monitoring, rules, decisions, and connectivity across all these systems. So one of the things that we talk in SOA a lot is about whether top-down or bottom-up. Top-down is more coming from the business and IT strategy, and bottom-up is more on what do we have and what is the current need of it. And SOA has always been promoting the meet in the middle, That's about think big, start small, and move fast. In this webinar, we are going to talk more about think big and start small. And move fast can be done more with agile and DevOps mode of implementation. So we'll not get into more details of that. And we can consider a lot of scenarios within BPM and SOA that can help the digital transformation. It could be hybrid integration platforms, multi-enterprise BPMs, iPaaS, APIs, governance, BAM, all these things that can help digital transformation. Let's take some of the use cases and see how it can help us. To start with, let's take an example of cloud, which is part of digital transformation. A healthcare organization go for providing a platform for hospitals, insurers, and TPAs to share the patient data so that they can provide a better service to their customers. And that organization has already invested a lot in their on-premise systems like ERPs and CRM systems, and they are well integrated with Enterprise Service Bus. Now, when they are hosting this new platform on cloud, they need to be integrated, the on-premise as well as what is there on the cloud. So that's where we can go for hybrid or federated ESB patterns, where the iPaaS is on the cloud and on-premise ESB, both of them are connected. So this is one use case. Now let's take another example where there is a single process between two partners, let's say customer and supplier. Some part of the purchase cycle is initiated by the customer in their own process, and then the next part of the purchase cycle steps are performed on the supplier end. So there can be a common business process cutting across multiple partners. So that's an example of multi-enterprise BPM that can solve the problem of connecting with multiple partners. And then one more use case on the collaboration or use of social media. In an insurance claim process, customer calls up customer service representative and raises a claim. And the claim handling requires multiple actors there. There is a claim handler, there is a loss assessor who goes onto the field and collects the data, and there could be a service provider who actually service the customer. And there can be many other entities as well, like legal. They all need to share the data on a real-time basis. That's where combining BPM along with content and collaboration systems can really help. When a loss assessor goes onto the field, he can share the real-time data. So what exactly is the loss? Does it match with the customer? And what the legal department says. So all of them can share the data and reduce the cycle time required for the claim processing. That's one example. If we can take another example like a publishing house where content is created by one person and then it is given for a proofreading and then goes for a legal approval and then final content approval. So the content is moving across multiple actors. So this is about using BPM in content collaboration. Then as we build our organization, we keep adding more and more systems into the ecosystem. We could add the CRM, ERP, and SEM. All of them come with their own built-in workflows. They have got a set of steps in those systems. However, we need to integrate all these workflows in a common business process. Let's take an example of a partial pick by customer. Customer has already placed an order and order is being processed by the company. Now customer decides for some reason to take a partial pick of that order. So he initiates that partial pick process, which could be a child of the main order processing, and it is initiated through the CRM, then goes to ERP for managing the inventory, and then the logistic adjustments are required from the supply chain management system. So these systems could be on-premise, some of them could be on cloud. So all of them can be integrated with federated BPM. Another thing that is coming up very much is about the Internet of Things, and also we can more generalize it as low latency messaging, or low latency brokers can be used for that. We can combine those brokers with ESBs and complex event processing. There is one use case which is really picking up in insurance industry is about pay-as-you-go premium. So it is about the driving habits of the insured person. Whenever he does some mistakes in driving or aggressive driving can cost him more. So those things can be, those events can be emitted from the car itself as and when it happens, and a real-time feedback can be given to the driver so that he can improve to reduce his premium. So this is one use case where we can use low latency broker for connected cars on IoT platform. Similarly, this can be any use case. We can connect to it any of the enterprise systems. It could be from manufacturing domain where we have conveyor belts or terminal automation, field measurement devices. This use case can be extended to pretty much anything to integrate the devices with the enterprise systems. And governance is one aspect of EI BPM which is really important. So I'm making it as a special section here. In case of governance, we need to maintain the capabilities. Let's think in terms of capabilities. All our services are our capabilities. All our business processes are our capabilities. And we can consider all our functionalities and the platforms as capabilities. And this capability catalog should include how our capabilities are organized. They need to be grouped together, the related ones, and what are the hierarchies, how they are composed, how one capability is composed of other capabilities, and what are the dependencies on each other. So all these things can be documented. And then we need to define the contracts, how the provider and the consumer of these capabilities are going to behave and interact on a real-time basis. And then we can talk about the scope, how it is supported, whether it is supported in the ecosystem with partners and customers as well, or is it within the enterprise, or is it for a specific LOB or a department, or it is specific to a geography like a country. Then we also need to consider about the technology, what kind of technology the capability is being built on, and how portable it is to another technology. Another important factor in managing capabilities is about strictly maintaining the metrics of usage, how each capability is used, whether it's heavily used, are there any redundant capabilities, and the usage is distributed among them. Can one of them be retired? All these things will come from the usage and monitoring of the capabilities. Now let's take a look at the life cycle of a capability. When we see something, there is a need for a new functionality. So we can call that as a candidate. Then somebody in the organization can go ahead and write specification. What do we need? A business unit can write a specification about that. That's a specified state. And then if it is approved and accepted, then it gets funded. Then it will be implemented either in-house or by outsourcing. And then it goes into a deployed state. And then once it's deployed and stabilizes, it goes through the multiple versions and iterations of monitor, analyze, and change cycles. And these can be exposed or hidden. Exposed in the sense it can be used from the other IT systems or partners, or it could be hidden inside one specific system but still be able to expose at a later point in time. And once we have got a better implementation of capability in some other part of the organization, it can be deprecated, so the better functionality is exposed to the larger audience. And then once usage really reduces, it can be retired. So this is a life cycle management. And then why do we need, what are the benefits of maintaining these capabilities. One is about having where do we stand and what is our roadmap. What are the new capabilities we need? That gap analysis and defining the roadmap is important, so that's where we need. And many times our offerings and product services can become obsolete, but not the capabilities. We can build new product offerings or service offerings based on our existing capabilities. So that's where we need to manage them well. And also by composing multiple capabilities together, we can build a synergy and offer new products and services. That's where we can bring in this synergy by managing these capabilities. Then also we can decide on what are the things that we need to build on and what are the technologies or the capabilities we exit. So that strategy also can be decided by having a proper governance in place. Then I would like to introduce a term on deliberately unstable. When we look at digital transformation, it's so disruptive and there are so many things happening, and we really need something which is dynamic. In case of fighter planes, when MiGs came in, they started with making planes unstable. Because of that, they can go for a maneuvering beyond the aerodynamic laws by making it unstable, at the same time making it deliberate. It's a deliberate design which is helping to go beyond the current laws. So similarly, we will need something similar in our IT systems today, where we need to integrate with so many partners who have got different processes and different systems. How do we integrate and still continue to work with them? That's where the governance can help us. Then let's take a look at the challenges we discussed initially and how SOA and BPM can help us. We had more dispersed systems, so there is a greater need for integration. That's where ESB and SOA can help. And since we are adding more and more partners and there are multiple hostings, so federated SOA BPM solutions can help us. And in case of business model of diversity, where we can go for multi-enterprise BPM and BPM to orchestrate across applications and partners. And also by governance, we can build some synergy across all these components and processes. And when we talk about too much of data and many devices and complex decision making, so we can use BRMS to help the decision management, take the inputs from analytics and feed into BRMS to make those real-time decisions by the systems. And the low latency brokers can help to connect those devices, and complex event processing can help to correlate the various events generated at real time. Now let's take a look at a few other challenges that we talked about, short-term gain versus long-term cost. So this is where when we want to have a life cycle of capabilities, we need to create a strategic alignment or an exit strategy when we introduce itself. So before funding, we can decide what to do with it. What is the fail point at which we want to exit from? Or how do we align with our overall enterprise architecture? Then we talk about the vendor trap, where there are too many products available. So always validate what is being offered, what is redundant, what we already have, and what are the complementary things. And based on that governance, we can decide. And not invented here is more of a cultural issue. So this is where we need to bring in the usage aspect, the matrix, which will help us how much of a service is being reused, if it exists, how many times it is being rebuilt. And it should be driven top-down by setting objectives for the departments and building a culture of reuse. And again, a governance is an aid to that. It will not solve all the problems, but it can definitely help there. To summarize the governance part of it, we already have a messy systems where there are too many connections and business processes running across systems, not well managed, a lot of paperwork, emails, and all that is happening. And then suddenly we discover a new cool application or a solution or a system product and try to bring it into our IT system. And then we will have a wow factor and everybody likes it and it looks really great. But over the time, it becomes a trap. We just add one more layer, one more system to existing mess. So that's not really going to solve the problem. We might just discover one more thing. So what's more important is about having a proper governance, build your business processes and align whatever new thing you're bringing into your existing business processes. And to finally summarize, digital transformation is not more about the intensity with which we are doing the digital transformation, but it is about transforming the business for better results or improved results. How do we achieve that? To do that, we need to have a governance in place and can be aided with business processes and service-oriented architecture. We manage the capabilities and we have a common platform to engage with various different systems. With that, I finish my presentation. I'll be happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Arvind. Thanks for the insightful presentation. Let's take up the questions now. Request you to read out the questions and their answers so that all our users may listen to the commendable insights.
Sure. I got a few questions and I'll take the first one. How are the low latency brokers like MQTT are related to traditional brokers like ESB? Traditional brokers did exist even before the concept of ESB really picked it up. So they have been supporting various kinds of integration. And also we need to consider about separation of concerns. When we have a business system that is concerned more about the functionality that it's supposed to provide. When it has to integrate with other systems, it has to take care about the transformation to a target system, the connectivity aspects of it. That's where, and similarly when new brokers or the new protocols are coming like MQTT to connect with systems, and this can help to connect to their enterprise systems. And many brokers are now supporting low latency protocols like JSON. And similarly, if you look at another example is Apache AMQ, which is supporting MQTT protocol now. The next question I'll take is, please provide some examples of deliberately unstable. We talked about one scenario where we need to build a business process across partners. So some of the organizations that I have seen are implementing a piece of business process from their end and providing links on their platform for their partners to build. Of course, it comes with the cost to the partners, but they can build the remaining part of their process, and that's where they can combine and provide a solution on that. Then next question I'll take is, how can we implement a solid governance? Is there any standard? There are multiple tools and technologies available. Again, if you don't have in place, maybe you could start with something like a spreadsheet, or you can look at many enterprise architecture tools which can help in managing the governance. So it is also about the culture, and I have given some of the key parameters that we need to consider. And also it is very important for business and IT to align there. And one more last question I'll take up is, what are the areas where we will not see much impact from digital transformation? Yeah, there are a lot of areas where digital transformation will not have much impact. I did prepare a slide on that. I'll just try to cover that. There are many concerns in many organizations where they don't want to move on to cloud because of the security issues or the mindset or the feasibility problems. And there are many organizations where they do not need to go for it, where they have a B2B and a lot of heavy manual work involved in the interaction with their partners. They will not go for it. And there is a lot of data hidden in legacy systems. It is very difficult to move that data out and make sense of it. Similarly, there is a lot of logic which is hidden in legacy systems. So that is again a problem in moving on to cloud or the latest technologies. There are data silos. And also there are many regulatory and compliance issues which requires a traditional usage. And then there is, as you look at the hype cycles and many technologies coming in also will go through a hype cycle where if people fail, over the time they will go for a more governed and standardized approach of a top-down and not the bottom-up. That also can happen to some of the organizations. With that, I conclude the question answers part.
Thank you, Arvind. Thanks for the insightful presentation. I'm really thankful to our guest speaker Arvind Bakshi for conducting this webinar today. I would also like to thank all of you for your support in making this webinar a success. The recording of this webinar will be available on techgig.com very soon. Thank you everyone. Thanks for your time today.
Thank you.